For the past month in my Priestess Path group, I have been working on the exercise of the devotional journey through the 4 pillars: the spine of devotion, the blood of devotion, the movement of devotion, and the union of devotion. Each pillar takes about a month to get through. I've just wrapped up the spine of devotion, and I'm moving into the month of blood of devotion. And I wanted to share my journey, what that's looked like for me, the tools that I've used, what I've discovered, what the spine of devotion means for me. It's going to be long, it's probably going to be rambly at times, because I'm just going to talk and share how it comes. So feel free to grab a drink and hang out and listen to my story. So, quick caveat for those that don't know, the Priestess Path is a group within our temple Discord. You can find the description on my website, or I'll put a link down below. And like all journeys within the temple and what I do, it's not about, learning somebody else's way. It's a framework, a journey. It gives us a framework to work within and some structure to get us started. But it's really about the journey. It's about the discovery that we make, what our connection is, how this works for us, what gets brought up for us, what do we build from it. It's one of the reasons why I think journeys and looking at things from the perspective and the language of journeys gives us that ability to see it as a framework, to see it as a starting place, but really focusing on our connections. So, as I said, I'm going to be showing you different books, tools, things that I've been using, and how that's all come together. And I'm just going to tell you step by step, story-wise, about how this went. There's going to be some things that I'm going to read. There's going to be some things that I'll show you. And it's just a time to really kind of peek into my practice and what this looks like for me, how I've journeyed through it, and what I'm doing with that. So a quick understanding about how this is set up. Each of the devotional pillars has a mystery and a tool. We're using a specific cross divination to kind of outline the week. And with that, we're using Lenormand decks. This is mine, the Offerenda Oracle. It's actually a Lenormand deck. It's different than tarot, a little bit language, great for the cross divinations. You could do the cross divinations with tarot or oracle or whatever deck you choose. I just think because of the way that Lenormand's structured, because it's language, because it's specifically meant to kind of tell a story from a language perspective, that it works perfectly for this. Again, you do you. So at the beginning of the first week, we're diving into the mystery. And for Spine of Devotion, the mystery is the 3 worlds: our inner world, our external societal life world, and then the natural world. 3 worlds that every single person lives within. And so the first deep dive is looking at that. Where is our spiritual in this? Where is our physical life in this? How are they emerging? How are each of the worlds overlapping and complementing each other? From a big overview, again, your divination is going to dictate what that looks like and what specific thing within those 3 worlds are you looking at? What is your mode? Again, framework, and then as you journey through the journey, you discover your own path. The tool that's in the Spine of Devotion is the rosary. Now, whether you see it as a rosary, mala beads, really doesn't matter. Works both ways. it's about the spoken magic of it. It is about the spoken devotion through, whether you call them petitions, whether you call them prayers, whether you call them devotionals. Use the language that works for you. And so in week 2, you really start getting into, you know, the tool aspect. And then in week 3, it's bringing it all, both of them together. And week 4 is reflection and really kind of putting everything together. So that's the framework that we're all working within. The rest of this is going to be about me. It's going to be about what I've been doing, what I've been discovering, the things that I've learned. So if you've been around for a while, you know that I'm in a journey of depth. I've been working with these mysteries, these tools, these aspects for a really long time, but journey of depth brings whole other levels of perspective and understanding and wisdom within that and ways to use that. It's really cool. So when I started out, again, starting first week in the mysteries, really started taking me deeper into spoken magic, aligning the internal energies, emotions and thoughts, with external energies, actions or inactions. Inactions are an action too. And then the natural flow of the cycle, pattern, energy, whatever I happen to be dealing with. And so it was really taking me deeper into thinking about that. Or how aligned are they? How well were they working together? Were they all working for the same goal and movement? Not just in my magic, not just in my devotional practice, but all the time in my living life. Where were some of the imbalances? Where were some of the things that, may not have been working as consistently together? There's a lot of times that we feel something, but we act a different way. Or we think something, but we choose a different action because of some other outside force. And then you have the natural cycles and flows of energy. How often was I going against that? How much was I trying to push against the natural flow instead of finding a way to flow within that? It's not like it's a fixed thing. The cycle, the pattern, sure, that's fixed, but our way through it, how we move through it, what that looks like for us, but what it does is it changes outcomes. It changes and shifts the energy within that cycle and pattern to create different outcomes. Hello to magic. Again, for me, this was really diving into spoken magic. And it was interesting because during this deeper dive into spoken magic and really, not new information, but a depth, a different way of looking at it and thinking in layered energy. That's going to be important later because when I was looking at the 3 worlds with spoken magic, it was layering energy. How do I layer energy from the inner? How do I layer energy from the outer? How do I layer energy with the nature? And so layered energy became a really big common theme in the spine of devotion. And I'm starting the blood of devotion. I'm in the first week. And again, it is carrying over. So I think layered energy is definitely going to be a deep theme through this and a different way of looking at layered energy. As I said, there are 4 pillars. There's 4 tools. There's the rosary, the candle, the sacred waters, and the cross or tower. Depends on how you want to look at it. I know some people have some issues with cross because they think of the Christian cross and not, original crosses and what that, all the different variations of a cross, like crossroads, elemental crosses, but whatever. Again, choose your language. But there are 4 tools. And one of the other things that it was showing me early on was how the tools are interconnected and work together as a whole. Just like the pillars interconnect and work as a whole foundation. The tools are the same. The rosary is the culmination of the foundation. The candle is the hope and responsibilities and possibilities. The water holds the wisdom, history, voice. The cross shows the direction. These were the first kind of actions that it was showing. Talking about how the rosary really kind of sets the foundation for what you're doing. The candle is that outward movement. It's, when we talk hope and possibilities and responsibility, the candle moving and shifting those energies. For me, I see candle, the wick is the path that I am creating, that I want it to take. The wax is all the physical and spiritual, energetic strings that need to be moved, shifted, weaved, or cut out in order to make that path a reality. And then the fire is the action. It's the actual movement. It's, the spark from the soul, the spark from divine, both, lighting that path on fire and melting through and, sorting through the wax, getting that all out and out of the way and giving the place for a path. That's how I see candles in spell work. And then sacred waters. Water, it holds memory, it holds wisdom, it's changed by the shape. Its shape changes by emotion, its shape changes by temperature. There are all kinds of things that affect water, but water also holds memory. And so with that, it holds wisdom, it holds history. And then the cross. For me, it's an elemental cross. You can look at it like a crossroads for this kind of, thing, but it's about direction. It's about stabilizing the direction. So your rosary is creating the foundation. Your candle is the magical working that is moving, in physical and energetic energy. The waters are holding the memory, the history, the emotion, the intention, what I'm shaping in that. And then the cross is solidifying its direction. So that was like stage one of showing how they interconnected. And it also was showing how to weave them in practice. So the rosary is the bridge. It's opening the door. It's, opening the bond, whatever needs to happen. The waters are creating the flow. I'm receiving the knowing and the movement of energy through the waters. The candle is the action, shifting and moving. And the cross is directing it. It's setting the path for the energy and action to move in alignment in a very specific way for a very specific result. Like I said, I'm going to be also reading some of the passages from my book it's my journal that I write in and work through. We are creating, weaving, and observing the garden, the place that is shared with others, the world that is shared, enchanting the mind, guarding the foundations, and stabilizing the bond and companionship of the Divine Mother within it. Divine Mother's my divine. We use all of our senses to anchor it, planting the seeds of possibilities, taking responsibility for them, and stabilizing the path. Know, heal, and balance through a curious and cunning mind. The curiosity allows the mind to be open, to explore, to discover. The cunning mind uses discernment, evaluation, learning to trust and see, magnify with joy and celebration. The directions I choose, I am responsible for. Transform the people by bringing in the place to remember and be together. So that last part for me is talking about temple, holding that space, keeping that space strong, sacred, being responsible for ensuring that it is that open space for them and that it's safe. So the next thing that came up was crane astrology. So if you don't know what that is, it's in Grimoire, the crane. It outlines this specific kind of astrology and the master pattern. This is what the master pattern looks like. It is just a different kind of perspective of the astrology, what the constellations mean when you look at it from a cycle perspective. Everyone that joins the Temple Discord, they automatically get a digital version of the Grimoire of the Crane. So if you're joining, or if you want to join or whatever, you don't have to buy the book. You can if you want it, but you also get a digital copy of it. So anyway, back to Crane astrology, because I'm not going to explain all of that in this video. That's not what this is about. So I took my birth chart and I went through and I put it into the master pattern, and I looked at where it starts, where it ends for me, where the planets are, what that energy was, looking at it from an elemental aspect. Here's the thing that it gave me, though. It gave me a true outline of me, my core energy, what I do, how I move, how I think, and ended up in this kind of format. I'll read it to you in just a second. And this became one of those core pieces to the new rosary that I'm doing now, that is specific for this, that is specific for my devotional pillar. The spine of devotion really comes down to the rosary and these words. So, the heart of why and how I transform through mind and voice. I am the tower transforming the soul and heart through mind and voice. I am the weaver illuminating the bridge and path. I see in relations, partnerships, duality, cycles, patterns. My actions are rooted in justice, balancing and restoring, healing foundations and structures through discipline and devotion. My knowing flows from the womb of the mother. Her towers show the path, balancing through perspective, reflection, and acceptance, breaking the old for new, weaving with soul energy, the magic to preserve wonderment, curiosity, and growth, flowing in my rhythm as a reflection of the Divine Mother. All of that was simply my astrology, my birth chart in Crane astrology, using the master pattern, what that looked like. And it really did give me that very explicit kind of way of viewing it, and the energy and how I work, and was spot on. It gave me a different perspective of my birth chart, but also a different way of describing my core energy, how I work, how I move, what my foundations are. So in week 3, it was looking at reflections so far in the journey. Moving into week 3, the first devotional pillar, this starting to have that familiar pattern. In the beginning, I am given knowledge and tools, then a period of time to experience it and experiment with it to understand it, moving on to reconciliation of it all. Then integration into me, into my practice. So the lessons I write here are now the knowledge for pillar 1, what I've gained so far. They are also in the order that they came, and that feels important. Again, I'm just reading out of my journal. Worlds and Rosary. Lesson 1. Faith flows from the bond. The commitment senses the direction that roots companionship. A deeper understanding of the spoken magic and the bridge it opens and illuminates between us. Its place and reason in my life, my devotion, and my practice. The candle is a reflective action of the cross, one in physical matter and one in soul and energy. Impressions. The rosary builds, strengthens, and opens the bridge between us, the bond between me and the Divine Mother. Each phase a different stage of devotion, growing and deepening. The bridge is how we receive messages and communicate back and forth. The rosary is spoken magic. The candle carries the intention, words, into action on the physical plane. Lesson 2. Went deeper into spoken magic. The prayer, words we use, are a spell being weaved. How it connects to the waters, interweaving the tools. The rosary is the culmination of the foundations. The candle is hope and potential. Waters hold the wisdom and voice. The cross shows the direction and moves. Impression. Every word matters because it is not just the prayer. It is a spell woven into yourself and the world around you. This is why it's important to write your own or change the words and phrases in another. So talking about writing your own prayers, writing your own mantras, be specific, make it what you need or what you desire or what you want to build, because the words really matter. Lesson number 3. Her cross, my astrology. My birth astrology and crane tradition, the master pattern, showing my core energies. I just shared that with you. This is going to become the cross on my rosary. So this cross on my rosary, which has the death moth. Seeding the power and rooting the spell within myself, weaving the energy into me and my life and all that it touches. So that was an important part. That astrology wasn't just to get a new perspective or anything like that. It is interwoven into this new rosary, and it begins with me. It is the first prayer that is said, and it is also broken up into its parts in the spacer beads in my rosary. So each of my spacer beads has another part of that. And when I'm weaving this, I do it in the mornings. I get up in the morning, I do my rosary, I say the prayers, and it's not just saying them. And it's not just going through and, as a devotional act. But what I've found is it's really imbuing into every single stone what that prayer is, that energy, that intention. And then I wear it. And I wear it under my clothes. People don't need to be all up in my business. And I like it against my skin because it has the closest contact for me. But it's like it weaves the energy of the spell for the entire day. Whatever it is that I put into this rosary, whatever my prayers were, or the petition, or whatever spell I wove into this, it holds that energy and it just kind of leaches out through the day, little by little, just releasing that energy until the end of the day. And then I take it off at night and I restart in the morning. And that energy moves through me and through my life throughout the day. It has been a really cool experience to see the rosary change into that. Her rosary, my rosary, change into that. Not just a tool of focus, not just a spell of spoken magic, but something that gets imbued with that and, continues to move that energy all day long. It's been really neat. But on lesson 3, her cross, my astrology, that became very, very important in weaving spell and weaving magic into that. Lesson number 4, morning routine. I'm experimenting and expanding. Rosary, water, candle, cross. I'm looking at their orders. I'm looking at, how I want to layer that energy. And what are the differences in the different ways that I layer that energy, depending on what I start with and what I end with. The rosary, the physical item, is charged like a talisman to carry and release energy or the spell imbued into it throughout the day. New rosary, prayer organization has been part of this. Experimenting with the order to do these. So, do I say the rosary, consume the waters, light the candle, set the directions with the cross for action? I'm continually experimenting with this right now, finding its flow, and I kind of really think that we're going to be getting into that in this Blood of Devotion pillar, because it's all about flow. So I'm experimenting, do I say the rosary first? Do I consume the waters first? Do I light the candle first? What is it that I'm doing? What gives me different results with different flows? And that's the thing. You've got to experiment. You've got to experiment and try different things, because just because something works one way for one person does not mean it's going to work the same for you in that way. You've got to find your own way that you flow. And I also think that there is a whole other aspect of that when you're talking about layering magic and layering energies. You want a different flow for different kinds of action. And so that's what I'm experimenting right now with their flow, to, see what different actions, what different outcomes, what different things happen on different days, dependent on the order that I use and how I'm using that order. So week 3 in the red was about reconciling, balancing, experimenting and experiencing. And week 4, again, was kind of a continuation of that, a deeper integration, a different work with the rosary, which I'll get into in just a moment. And, really kind of shaping what that spine of devotion, it really is spine. It is that backbone that's going to hold everything. So these journeys are important. Whether we're talking about a journey with a pillar, whether we're talking about a journey, with a tool, or we're talking about a journey with an ancestor or a guide or a deity, or a piece of magic you want to learn. I like to see and call them journeys, because it's exactly what they are. We're exploring, experimenting, looking at results, measuring, evaluating, reconciling, keeping what worked, ditching what didn't, retrying new things, until we find our mode, what works for us. These journeys are important. They are the only way we experience and create our own path, our own connections, our own faith, based in our experience of it. The framework for my own journeys seemed to be the way I flow and create. It's a reflection of the master pattern. Each individual, I think, needs to find their own rhythm. The way that they flow, receive, experience, expand, grow. The framework is great. It is a great place to start. I even say that about the Grimoire of the Crane. I say it about the Divine Mother, my book. This was just my book and my practices. These can be really great ways to get started, to get an idea, to have a place to kind of start and a framework to work within. But you gotta climb out of their boxes. You cannot stay, just, oh, it's Crane tradition and this is what I am now. No, this is a framework. This gives you places to start, gives you some tools to play with. It gives you some perspectives to think from and some exercises to get you going. But you eventually got to climb out of the box, because you're creating your own. It's your path, your experience, built on your experiences. Faith is built from your personal experiences. It isn't Christian faith where it's just blind and we follow because somebody told us to. No. Our faith is built because of our experiences. We experience so many things in our spiritual side, in the unseen, in our intuition, in ways that we cannot give proof to other people. But it's true for us. We know what we experienced. We are in awe within it. That's faith. That's what builds faith. Not because somebody told you to. That's not faith. That's following. Faith is built on your own personal, true experiences and your beliefs in those experiences. That's what creates your faith. Some of you may have seen this already. Some of you may not have. I created a new morning water blessing. I expanded it out to include her crosses and, the same that we're using for the divination. I'll show that shortly. But I think it really started to bring more layers of energy into it. And I'm experimenting. And this may not be the end all be all, but it's been really great for the past couple of weeks. So I get my morning cup of whatever, I put it in front of me. And then I make the cross sign as I'm doing each of the crosses. So from the waters of the Divine Mother to the earth of her creation, from the fire of my soul to the air of my action. We see and enchant to sense and know. We weave and guard to plant and heal. We observe and stabilize to rule and balance. Then I put my hand over the cup. Divine Mother, transmute these waters into the vibration of your energy. As I consume them, let the knowing flow through me and let our bond guide me. And then I end as I normally do with Ache Exu. Some people say blessed be, all that. Mine is Ache Exu. So these are the 3 cross divinations that we use for the divination at the start of each week. There's the black, the white, and the red. Whether you call them a cross or a tower doesn't really matter. And each one kind of flows in that way. See, enchant, sense, know. Again, I'm not going to go into deep details of this at the moment. I've done that before, and if you want to do this kind of work, I explain things in Temple. But it's the divination that we use, which works with each of the mysteries. It works with each of the tools, and is kind of a blueprint of how the energy is moving, how the actions are moving. There is a third part to this. For our purposes, it turns into a 9 square. So you have your cross, core energy at the center, and then what you're magnifying, what's your authority. Your authority means responsibility. So just so we're clear on my authority here is my responsibility. What you're transforming and what you're bringing in because of the transformation. So again, this is the divination we start with each week, and it also crosses into the other works that I've been doing. It crosses into the new rosary that I'm saying. Part of the new rosary also dealt with crane runes. Again, it's in the book Grimoire, the Crane. All of these are in there. They're also on Temple. They're on my YouTube. I've gone through and explained these numerous times. But I use these for each of the decades within my new rosary that I'm saying, weaving and layering energies. If anyone is wondering what my new rosary looks like and all that, I will post it later this week, some over on Patreon, and I'll make it free so everybody can see it. The morning waters, though, so I showed you the blessing. I showed you the crosses, where part of the blessing came from, why that's integrated in there. But with that water, I am consuming that energy. I am taking that energy within myself. I am taking the energy of her crosses. within myself and walking through them, walking with them throughout my day, carrying them with me throughout the day. And when I think about that, there is an aspect. Again, we change the shape of the water with our voice, our intention, our emotions. We consume that water, taking it within ourselves. Thus, it is starting to transform and change the waters within us to match it. Layering energy. So this part I'm going to read out of my journal again. From the waters of the Divine Mother to the earth of her creation, from the fires of my soul to the air of my action, the waters and earth are fixed memory, keepers of knowledge of what was and what is. The fire and air are my movements, how I move in that, and this world. They are mutable because action changes outcome, what will be. This is how I flow with her, my fixed and mutable elements and why. This is my cross and the words that I associate with it. Others may be different based on how they flow and what their fixed and mutable are. Maybe water isn't your beginning. Maybe you start with fire. You discover this knowing how you work in these elements, what they mean to you, how they are reflected in you. This is why journeys are important. Through the process, we are discovering who we really are, how we work, where our power is, and the mode of our magic and transformation. They're not something outside of us, but a part of us. Element work shows how we flow in our path. Our cross shows the direction and movement of that flow. We believe element work is about understanding nature, but it is also about understanding our nature. This was the point of my witchcraft, even when I didn't realize it. To discover my true self, to know myself, how I transform and transform myself. In that act, I transform the world, my perspective and actions in it, and how I show up. Each spell enchanting my mind, opening a door, revealing an understanding. Each ally a reflection of a part of me, seeing the strings of energy and different ways to move them. Again, back to the 4 tools. Rosary is the bridge, the door. It's the bridge between me and the Divine Mother. The waters is the flowing. It's the knowing that flows from her to me. It flows from nature to me. Candle is the action. It's the action, the voice, the movement. And the cross is the direction. It is solidifying and creating and making sure that energy is moving in the right direction. The rosary opens the door, grounds my energy in the bridge. The waters are the channeling. The candle is me sharing the message. Then spending the day in community, being witness, guide, and a part of cross. There's many different ways that I can look at these, but they are all meaning the same kind of flow for me. So then I got this whole thing on moon and sun water. And instead of thinking about it from moon and sun water, element waters. How is the water growing with intentional magic? Again, layering and weaving. Water, plane, holds the knowing, the memory, and the web. If I add earth to it, we're adding environment, whether that's sun, moon, land energies, where it came from, adding plants, teas, cacao to reshape those waters, focusing on that specific area of knowing. Maybe there's one particular part of knowing that I want to really bring that memory forth in that water. You can add earthy elements to help do that. Fire, emotion. What emotion am I feeling while I'm near it, while I'm focusing on it? The unseen vibration fueling the waters, changing the shape of the waters. Air, spoken word, voice, or written on the container, fixes the direction, intention, goal of the water. What am I destroying, creating, and nurturing? Again, thinking about it in, alignment. What is my alignment? Where, how am I setting the waters? For me, I'm thinking at the moment, my primary, mode is water, earth, fire, and then air, which makes sense because it's actually how I normally do my waters without even thinking about it. But I'm going to be experimenting with that, changing different things, changing the order, seeing, are there different outcomes? Is there different energy flow? What happens day to day, dependent on the order that they are being moved in. Then in my journal, the rosary illuminates the bridge between us, talking about me and the Divine Mother. The waters flow the knowing through me. The candle brings it to life in voice and action. The cross supports what is built from it and guides the direction of movement. The Divine Mother, weave this web with me. Let your knowing guide me. The spine of devotion is the foundations of being in reflection with you. We weave and create our web of magic in companionship. That part was really just another one of those perspectives, putting it into wording for myself. So this last part is more reflection and a question I asked on May 23rd. This morning I asked a question of the mother. The answer I got was, with a strong, steady faith, the garden will grow. Then I pulled the Ace of Winter Wands and the Initiative of Winter Pentacles. Plant the seeds now. How much energy are you willing to put into it? Precious books scattered around, study them intentionally. And when she's talking about books, she's not talking about other people's books. She's talking about the things that we have created together. Our books. Journaling, so important. Anyway, the seeds are about a new approach in our work. The books are the ones we've written together, published in journals like this. These are my practices, my path, our journey together. By sharing my own, inspires the courage for others to discover their own. By sharing my practices, prayers, and frameworks, gives others a place to start experimenting if they need one, to test and change and then create something completely unique for them and their bonds, their magic, what they're connected to in their path. This is not a box for you to try to fit into. It is a box that is meant for you to climb out of and expand beyond. A strong mind, a strong, steady faith. The balance between heart and mind, fully embrace the spark and love between them. Practices that speak to this. Study and absorb what we have. The products of our journey, the depth of that we're traveling, and the knowing that flows between us. Be the winter tower, the one who controls the destruction to build a whole new creation. This is not study to learn, for these are all practices and lessons I know well. This is to bring them to life, to live and breathe every moment, for they are not just the spiritual, but also for my mundane living, my day-to-day life. Depth is a different kind of journey, a different kind of perspective, and a different kind of practice. And then she gave me these 4 modes of magic. And we're not talking about 4 modes for everybody. Again, this is about me. This is my journey I'm sharing. These are my 4 modes of magic. things I need to think about and be concentrated in. When I think, what are my modes of magic? What spell do I want to do? What ritual do I want to create? The first one is to stand your ground, defense magic. With that, I'm going to use magnification, amplification magic. Walking the labyrinth within the self-transformation. This is where authority and domination magic come in. World transformation, changing outcomes of cycles, physical world, life stuff. Heavy in transmutation magic. To balance or bring alignment, it's going to be attraction, love magic, bringing in the drawing magic, the magic that brings in. I thought that was kind of cool that when she gave me those, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I should think about, something along those lines of, dependent on what this is, these are the specific modes that I flow, how I work, what is best for my mode. And this last part is just the recap. Again, reading from my journal. Pillar 1, the spine of devotion, showed me interconnections between all the tools, how I work with them, how they work with each other. The thought, another layer weaved into my web, popped into my head at that time. And so I wrote that in quotations. In the end, a rosary was created, but a very different one. It feels like weaving a spell feels. It starts with me, the death moth, being the starting point. It came directly from my birth chart using crane astrology. Then the next beads invite my soul coven to walk with me, ancestors of soul, blood, and land. The first decade is acknowledging each tool's role. The rest of her decades are a blending of her cross invocation, the element itself with using the crane runes, and the master pattern, her cross divinations. The entire rosary is a pattern in itself with smaller patterns within it. The idea of layering energy has been a constant over the past week. Conversations with the mother and with my mother's mother, the mothers of my mother. I'll get into that in a minute. I can see the pattern that the rosary weaves, each piece aligning and flowing into the next, flowing in my way, my order, how I work. The last part is really important. The tools, even how we use them, can be the same, but the order they align in has to be yours. How you flow in those elements. What order do you weave them in? This applies to everything, not just devotion, but also life, living, and your magical practice. The next pillar deals in the waters. For me, I'm thinking that's the flow. I'm wondering if the order is going to change. I don't think it is. I've been experimenting with that a little bit this week. Will I be experimenting or creating a new order or flow in this, or going deeper into what that flow means? Is this why my Ozark women, my great-grandmother's second through the fifth, are pushing magical practice all of a sudden to test new magic, as they put it? Definitely separate journeys, but they are interconnected with this. So a quick thinking about that one. The mothers of my mother really is talking about the maternal line, genetic memory, mitochondrial DNA genetic memory, really focused on that particular part of ancestry that has been really heavy the last couple of weeks. My Ozark grandmothers, I call them my Ozark women, but my Ozark grandmothers, I've worked with them for quite a long time. They're heavy on the magic side, creating spells, rituals, things like that. That's a lot of the work that I do with that ancestor group. And they have been just chomping at the bit. We got to do things. We got to do things. And so I really think that this maternal line, starting with them because I'm already connected to them, so it's an easy flow through. But I do think that I'm going to be doing that kind of traveling, and maybe that is part of what the waters is. Maybe the waters, the blood of devotion, is we're going to be literally talking about blood, because it's not ancestral soul. It's not my soul. It's genetic is what we're talking about here. So I'm just at the beginning of that pillar, barely wading into it yet, just a couple of days in. And so I really don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how that's going to play out, or where they're going to come in as far as what we're going to be doing. I do feel like we're going to be doing all kinds of different magical work. And maybe it's part of the testing and experimenting of flow, of the elements, of, the layering the energies. Or are they going to be part of that layered energy? It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Anyway, just thought I would give you a sneak peek in of where I'm at, what I've been going through, because I know I've been kind of quiet. I've been posting the seasons journey, but that's something completely different than, posting some of my work and what I'm doing. So yeah, I just wanted to share. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. Maybe it'll give you some inspirations. Maybe you heard something and you're like, oh, I want to explore that. Or, I hadn't thought about that, but maybe I want to go think about that. That's why we share. We share to give ideas and inspirations. That's what I get from other people sharing their own. Don't keep sharing all the, 101 repeated stuff over and over. There's tons of that out there. I want to hear about other people's practices. I want to hear about the journeys that they're taking. I want to hear what they're discovering for themselves. That, for me, that's where my interest lies. Everybody's different. That's just me. That's where my interest lies, is in hearing your stories and hearing about your experiences and how you're growing and moving and what you're connecting to. I find that deeply interesting. So again, all of this stuff, a lot of it I post up on Patreon in the free area, on my Patreon page, where anybody can get and look at stuff. The specific journey of devotional pillars, and then we have other journeys that go into the grimoire, the crane. There's Blue Crane group in our Discord temple that it does deep dives, and they've got a workbook that they're working on over there with that. The Priestess Path has got different exercises. The devotional pillars is just one of them, and that's just the one that several of us happen to be working in right now. All of these things can be found over on my Patreon. Again, the link is on my website, and I'll also put it in the description down below. For anybody that wants to join, check it out, or just get the free stuff. Again, if you are joining the Patreon, do know that you will get a digital copy of the Grimoire of the Crane. So you do not have to buy this book. If you don't want to, you can get it there. And those that are going through the Priestess journey, you get a digital copy of the Divine Mother, Lady of the Bones. It goes into the mysteries, tools, things like that. Some of the other things. Not that you have to follow mine. This is just my practices. These are my things that I've worked through and discovered along my own journey with her. Starting places, frameworks, things to help you get going, to walk your own path, discover your own connection, build your own bond, and discover what that means for you. It's been really great. I hope to hear from you. I hope to hear your thoughts, your ideas, and what you're doing. Do you have a channel? Are you somewhere on the internet where you're sharing your own personal experiences and thoughts and, things that you're doing? Please tag yourself in the comments. Please let me find you. I am having a hard time finding people that are doing that. So tag yourself in the comments. Let me find you. Let others find you. Have a great one.